Welcome to Frame Within a Frame, and I am your host, Jason Davis, and we're back at it again with another video and topic for you beautiful people. I hope all of you are doing well. So here's what I want to talk about. Right now in the Black community, there's a lot of different movements that are going on, all happening simultaneously. The revolution is now being televised, especially with, there being so much emphasis on social media these days, right? There's all of these different movements that are taking place all at one time. However, I feel like we are reaching for some of the big pieces, but forgetting some of the smaller pieces, forgetting steps in getting to these bigger chunks. Now, I am not saying by any means that we should stop any of these movements that are happening. I think they all have a place. They're all relevant to the ultimate goal, which I don't know if I necessarily say is equality. That's a topic for a different day. We can come back to that. But like I said, there's a time and place for all of these movements. They're all relevant. They all are attempting to achieve things that are necessary for the advancement and preservation of the Black community at large. However, there's something that I feel is vital that we are missing, and that is one of the reasons that I created this particular channel. And I mentioned this on the last video that I did about Hassan Campbell, that there were two main things that I wanted this channel to be about. One was decision making, and the other one is the Black family, and that is the movement that we really need to be focused on. And in these other movements that are already taking shape, the Black family should be at the epicenter of these movements, because without any focus on that, we're really going nowhere fast. Okay, the goalposts will continue to be moved further and further out. We need to clean up our house, right? We focus on what other people are saying about us, doing to us, and so on and so forth, but we need to clean up our own house, and that is the step that cannot be skipped. And if we're talking about cleaning up our own house, then the Black family, that is the broom and mop and the chemicals, that we need in order to make that happen. It is the foundation of it all. That's why you see a lot of parents of non-Black families, they really don't want their children dating, like a Black man or a Black woman, and more specifically a Black man, right? But not just because they have this hate or vitriol for Black people. In some cases that is true, that's valid, but in a lot of other cases that's not true. They live around these people, they work around these people, they don't have any type of ill will towards them where they want to go out and do harm against a Black person, or necessarily putting these systematic policies in place that will hold us down. However, they have a selective view. Okay, their eyes only allow them to see certain things, and other things are blocked out. They don't notice some of the positive stuff that is taking place. But in this selective view, a lot of what they see is broken Black homes, single family Black homes. And they see a lot of single Black mothers raising children dolo, by themselves. And they don't want their child to be put in that position of because, a lot of these other, ethnicities had heavy emphasis on culture, their culture. And the only way they can preserve their culture is through family structure, right? Statistically, some of this is true, right? Now, I don't know how valid this research is, because I didn't do it myself, and I don't have the means to do it myself. However, in my research, statistically, 67% of black family households are single family households. Doesn't say whether these households are headed by men or women, but just in general, 67% of black family households are single family, which only leaves another 33% of black families that have two parents in the household. That's way less than half. Okay, we're not getting close to the halfway mark, and that's still a low bar, I would say. Right under us was Native American families at 52% single family households. And if you look at those two groups and the fact that they are single family households, or single family households comprise the majority of households, you got to be like, that's probably by design, right? However, we'll come back to that in a second, but it just shows the importance, right? Because people know how important the family is to any culture, ethnicity, to their survival, right? To their advancement, their preservation. You know, we know how important it is for those people to thrive. And not to say I agree with it in any form or fashion, but you know, I believe that's why some people do arranged marriages, or some cultures, you know, they're advocates of arranged marriages because they want to ensure that the family structure survives, that it is passed on. You know, I grew up in I would say lower middle class neighborhood where we're not too far off from, we're not too far off from the hood, you know, but also not too far from like an upper middle class family, right? And, you know, a good portion of my friends, I would say, had a mother and a father. And then, you know, there was another half, and, you know, another 50% that didn't. And some of them didn't have either of their biological parents in the household. They were raised by grandparents, or, you know, someone else that was a close family member. And not to say that those people cannot do a good job. They can do an excellent job, but I think there will still be some psychological consequences to that later on in life. But like I said, I witnessed this with my own eyes, and I witnessed the repercussions, you know, of not having two stable parents in the household. But when you look at other cultures, you know, you see the exact opposite of this. Let's take Indian families, for instance, right? So, and I'm not talking about Native American, I'm talking about people from India, right? Because we're not Christopher Columbus. We know where we're going. They put super duper heavy emphasis on family. You don't see too many single Indian households. No, you see two people. A lot of times it's a dual income. And the kids are with the parents well into adult age. You know, a lot of times the kids will stay with them, you know, through the time they're in college, and when they graduate from college, up until the point that they get married and start their own families. And then later on, the parents move in with one of the children. Usually I think like the eldest son, and if he's not available, they go, well, what's next? And, you know, you have these parents in the household, so now they're helping to raise the grandchildren, right? So now they're getting, wisdom and knowledge from their parents, and also from the grandparents, who are also helping to watch these children so that the parents can go off and be fruitful. I mean, that's heavy. And we don't see that with us. You know, a lot of us, especially black families, you know, even when you have two parents in the household, we're trying to get these kids out. Like, hey, you got to get out. You're 10 years old. You're an adult now. You need to go. I mean, that's an exaggeration, right? But we're telling them, like, 18, you got to go. And you don't see that with a lot of other cultures, right? Because they want to ensure the success of their children's lives, going into adulthood. Now, with these movements, we talked about these movements earlier on in the video. A lot of information is becoming available to us as a people. Before, a lot of us were in the dark. We were totally in the dark, and now it's like fashionable to be woke. That's a term. I remember when it wasn't popular to be woke, and we didn't really call it. Well, we called it being conscious. It was the conscious community. And you had to be a part of some type of organization to gain this knowledge. Whether it was NOI or 5%, Seventh Circle, something like that. And we wanted to take these teachings out into the community and wake up the people that would sleep. But like I said, now a lot of this stuff is just readily available and it's being pushed to you every day. So having this knowledge, what do you do with it, right? You know what's happening and you know what people are trying to do to you and you know the consequences of that. So what is the next step that you're going to do? If you possess this knowledge and yet you do nothing with it, you're even worse than you were off before when you were ignorant and you were in the dark. We know that there has been I don't know, the black family has been devalued from the time that we came across here on these shores, right? You are aware of that at this particular point in time, that these families have been intentionally broken up from slavery on. But now what are you going to do? What are you going to do with that knowledge? We have to stop going out here. And I know it's hard to tell a young person what to do, but we have to stop going out here and having these children outside of wedlock, having them at young ages where we're too young and immature to take care of ourselves, right? You see a lot of other people and other coaches, they're having their children later in age after they've graduated from college, and now they're financially stable and they can take care of themselves and also support another life form financially and mentally. You see a lot of this in low economic communities, and that's why I talked about where I was from earlier, because you see, like I said, you saw about 50% of that in my neighborhood, but as you move over, because the hood was only a short walk, like I could walk to the hood. As you get closer to those neighborhoods, that's where you see the disparity come in, and now the single family households are they're the majority of households. And you see what happens in those neighborhoods. That's where all your violence is. That's where all your drugs are, right? That's where your crime is. Because they're not getting the foundation. These children are not receiving the foundation that they need. This, family household, this structured family household. And again, I'm not saying that you can't raise a child on your own and be successful. We always put this emphasis on, young men needing their fathers. Young men need their fathers. But the young girls also need their fathers. They need that masculine energy and presence in the household just as bad as the little boys do. So when you go into these neighborhoods, nobody's controlling what gender the child is. Nobody's controlling that. So when you go into these low economic neighborhoods that do not have men, because that's usually what's missing, men in the households, it just leads to disaster. Leads to total disaster. And the same thing, I'm sure there's, the population of single fathers is very minute in relation to, or in comparison to, the population of single families that are headed by women, right? But even in those households, there should be two people there, right? Now, if you and this person are not working out, then yeah, y'all probably should split up, right? You shouldn't remain in the household, because that's going to be even worse on the children than before. But that's why we need to take our time going into these situations in the first place. I said we need to stop having these children before we go into marriage, right? We need to establish all these things ahead of time so that we can build a stable family household. Now, marriage is not for everybody. I'm not advocating that everybody should go out and get married. No, that's not what I'm saying. But if you do decide, hey, I want to be with somebody, then y'all need to wait to have kids, and then you solidify this thing and you be responsible enough to give this child a family that will give them a competitive advantage and a brighter future, right? There's always going to be kids that are going to make it. There's always exceptions to everything, right? They're going to be children that have one parent and they're going to go off and be successful. But you can't, hoist that person up as the model example of all children that don't have family households. Because when you compare the two, there's going to be a lot more children who are not as successful, or not reaching the potential that they could if they had grown up in a loving, structured family household that had a mother and a father there that were both working towards the goal of their family and their children being successful. And you can say whatever you want to say, but you will not convince me otherwise. You just won't. Because like I said, you see it with other cultures, other ethnicities. You see the success that they're having because they put so much focus on family and building that up first. I want you to think about that. I want you to think about that. And like I said, this is the movement. This is the movement that we should be focused on. And this is my movement. And we'll be discussing more of this later. But for now, man, I'm going to get out of here. But like I said, and I'm going to repeat it again, you have the knowledge. You know what people are trying to do to you. And so what are you going to do? Jason Davis, Frame Within a Frame. I'm out.